Hello, and welcome to XR101. In this video, we're going to be looking at definitions of virtual reality. What exactly do we mean by VR? What different definitions are out there, and do any of these definitions tell us anything unique about VR itself? One of the first and possibly most obvious places to start looking for definitions of virtual reality is Google. But before you start browsing through any articles, I recommend simply typing the term into the Google Images search bar. This is particularly useful for giving you an at-a-glance understanding of what the popular public perception of any term is. As you can see in this case, almost every image is of a head-mounted display. So this seems pretty cut and dry. Virtual reality is the use of a headset. But is it that simple? Are there other ways of defining VR? And does defining VR as a headset tell us everything that we need to know about it? One of the first problems we have with the term is that around the late 80s, early 90s, which is often described as early commercial VR, and then around 2013, when the first Oculus Rift development kit launched, the term virtual reality was still used frequently. What's interesting is the context in which the term was used. Now, whereas 90s VR and post-2013 VR was seemingly all about headsets, it was almost also entirely about video games. In the gap between these times, virtual reality was being used to describe more serious applications. These would include training simulators, data visualization tools, and therapeutic tools, but it rarely involved the use of a headset. This would explain why in the 2000s, definitions of virtual reality tended to focus on other elements. Gerard Kim decided VR was a field of study that aims to create a system that provides a synthetic experience for its users, heavily drawing association between VR and research practice, but also user experience. Alan Craig, on the other hand, thought VR was a medium composed of interactive computer simulations that sense the participant's position and actions, providing synthetic feedback to one or more senses, giving the feeling of being immersed or being present in the simulation. Now here, Craig is clearly asking quite a bit more of VR. It has to be something specific, in this case a simulation, but it also has to include specific functionality, which would be sensing the user's position and actions and providing feedback. On top of that, VR also needs to evoke specific feelings, those feelings being immersion and presence. We'll come back to them later. Hopefully this, if nothing else, highlights how there is more than one way to define virtual reality, and how you define it can sometimes quite dramatically alter your perspective. It can change what you do or do not count as virtual reality. It can change what you feel to be the most important functions, the most important purposes, and the most important qualities of VR. Before we leave definitions, one bit of theory that we really can't leave out is the extended reality continuum. Created by Paul Milgram and Fumio Kishino, and sometimes called Milgram's Continuum. Why Milgram got exclusive credit here, I don't know. This framework is used to neatly distinguish various virtual technologies that more recently we've put under the umbrella term of XR, or extended reality. Going from left to right, the continuum separates these technologies by the ratio of virtual to physical content. Now, first admission, this ratio way of separating things is not completely accurate, or it is at least debatable, particularly when differentiating the middle two circles, which we'll get to. But it's a nice clear way of understanding the general principle of the framework. On the far left, we have virtual reality being almost entirely made up of virtual content. I say almost, as the user is technically not virtual and arguably a part of the experience, but again, that's debatable. On the far right, we have good old reality, no virtual content at all. Then in the middle, we have mixed reality, with augmented reality slightly further to the right and augmented virtuality slightly further on the left. Augmented reality overlays real-world content with virtual artifacts and largely consists of more physical than virtual content. Augmented virtuality is less well known, and it's easy to think of as a reverse AR. Augmented virtuality is often in many ways similar to virtual reality, and the user is typically presented with an almost entirely virtual world. but that world is being influenced by real-world content. Now, this could be GPS data, it could be a user's biosignals, or real-time captured video images that are being projected into the virtual world. As we'll come back to, augmented virtuality is possibly where some of the most interesting developments in VR are actually coming from. So, to give a quick summary, virtual reality can be defined in different ways, and it's important to understand this as different personal definitions can lead to different attitudes and perspectives. Your definition could prioritize the technology aspect of VR, or it could prioritize matters of user experience. You could give a very broad definition that would encompass many different things, or you could be rather exclusive and only count something with a series of very specific properties as VR. Of course, you may not necessarily disagree with any of the above definitions, but you may find that you relate more to some than others, as these particular definitions could align more closely with your interest in the subject or how you prefer to differentiate VR from anything else. Either way, it's important to get to know your own perspective and also to challenge that perspective from time to time. Definitions can change every day, and you don't want to let your own understanding get out of date. Thanks for watching.